Have you ever wished you could disappear and start a new life? What happens when that new life gets shattered by the sins of your past? Today, we're diving into the action-packed revenge thriller As Good as Dead. Did Michael Jai White deliver a knockout performance? Or was this movie, well, dead on arrival? Let's break it down in our recap. In the gritty border town of Nogales, Mexico, Brian, a hardened loner living in a makeshift camper, is haunted by nightmares of his wife being attacked. To escape these visions, he throws himself into martial arts, relentlessly training day after day. Oscar, a young man from the same neighborhood, is fascinated by Brian's training sessions. Longing to learn how to fight, Oscar watches Brian's training in his daily ritual before heading to school. One day, Oscar is followed by a group of thugs. Sensing danger, he seeks refuge behind a parked car. Unbeknownst to him, Brian witnesses the encounter and realizes Oscar's desire for self-defense stems from a genuine need. That night, the same thugs confront Oscar at his home, brandishing a gun. It turns out they're part of his gangster brother Hector's crew and are shaking him down for money. Despite being innocent, Oscar meekly surrenders his cash. The next morning, Oscar seeks out Brian at the training ground. To his delight, Brian offers to take him on as a student. Oscar eagerly learns defensive moves, his confidence growing with each passing day. Over a few weeks, Oscar's fear of Hector's gang dwindles. He even confronts them, a newfound courage burning in his eyes. Impatient to test his skills, Oscar pleads with Brian to arrange an underground fight. Brian refuses, insisting the lessons are for self-defense, not brawling. Enraged, Oscar storms out. Outside the training area, Oscar comes face to face with Hector and his friends. Initially overjoyed, Oscar embraces his brother. Brian arrives, and Hector, sensing a stranger, questions Oscar. Reassured by his brother's explanation that Brian is a martial arts teacher, Hector tries to lure Oscar into his criminal world. Oscar, however, yearns for an everyday life. Despite their opposing paths, Hector invites Oscar to a party. Hesitant at first, Oscar eventually joins his brother. Oscar feels out of place at a lively bar and longs to go home. Hector then proposes taking him to an underground fight, sparking Oscar's interest. Entranced by the brutal contest, the crowd erupts when a tempting offer is announced. $10,000 to anyone who can defeat the champion, a ruthless fighter known as the Collector. Inspired by his training, Oscar, to his brother's astonishment, steps into the ring. The fight had a surprising outcome. The Collector, the clear favorite, lay defeated. Oscar, the underdog, claimed the prize money, his confidence soaring. Hector's associates, who used to bully Oscar, seemed less intimidating now. Unbeknownst to them, a bystander captured the fight and uploaded it online. Miles away, in California, Pero, a criminal lawyer, received an urgent call with a video attached. It was Oscar's fight. Pero was stunned. He immediately contacted his boss, Sonny Kilbane, the incarcerated kingpin, who still wielded immense power from prison. Pero showed Sonny the video, leaving him equally astonished. Sonny instructed Pero to locate the fighter and investigate Brian, the suspected instructor. Something about Oscar's fighting technique rang a bell. It closely resembled Brian's distinct style, hinting at a connection between Brian and Sonny's criminal enterprise. Without delay, Pero contacted hitmen in Mexico, tasking them with eliminating Brian. Meanwhile, Oscar, hungry for more fights, headed to a local fight club. He approached Marisol, the receptionist, about a membership, eager to hone his newfound skills. Disappointingly, Marisol informed him that membership was restricted to adults. Dejected, but ever charming, Oscar flirted with Marisol before leaving. He then visited Brian's residence, accompanied by Hector and his crew. They desperately tried to convince Brian to resume training Oscar, even offering a hefty sum. Brian, however, remained resolute in his refusal. Tensions escalated when Hector brandished a gun, only to be met with Brian drawing his own and ordering them to leave. He warned Oscar to stay away from Hector. Undeterred, Oscar and Hector returned to the fight club. This time, Hector signed guardian papers, securing Oscar's membership. Marisol, recognizing Oscar from the video, shared the footage with him. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of the Gonzalez brothers. They questioned Oscar about Brian. Hector intervened, initially suspicious of their claims of owning another fight club. But the brothers revealed their true purpose. They were hitmen after Brian. Hector sent the brothers away, keeping Brian's location a secret. Later, he confided in Oscar, revealing the Gonzalez brothers' deadly mission. Oscar, determined to warn Brian, convinced Marisol to join them. Reaching Brian's house, Oscar relayed the news about the Gonzalez brothers. Recognizing the danger, Brian ushered them inside, fearing they were followed. His suspicion was tragically confirmed. The Gonzalez brothers opened fire, killing 2 of Hector's friends. Hector, Marisol, and Oscar barely made it alive. Separated from their group, they scrambled for safety, finding refuge in Brian's heavily fortified house. But the nightmare wasn't over. Grief and anger twisted Hector's insides. He blamed Brian for his friends' deaths, demanding answers. Brian, reluctant at first, revealed a shocking secret. He wasn't just a regular guy. Years ago, as a police officer, he'd put away a notorious drug lord named Sonny Kilbane. Now, living under a new identity, he'd hoped to escape the cartel's reach. But their presence here baffled him. Marisol, ever observant, offered a possibility. In a moment of youthful disobedience, Oscar participated in an underground fight, unknowingly putting them all on display online. Furious with Oscar's recklessness, Brian stormed out, leaving a tense silence. Outside, armed with a crossbow, Brian hid in wait. Following instructions, Hector walked past a window, drawing the attention of the pursuing hitmen, the Gonzalez brothers. In a swift strike, Brian took down one with a crossbow bolt. Unfazed by his brother's death, the remaining Gonzalez brother, fueled by vengeance, approached the house, dousing it with gasoline. Just before he could ignite it, Brian emerged, leading to a brutal fight. Brian prevailed, demanding information about who hired them. The stubborn hitman refused to talk. In a final act of defiance, he set himself ablaze, taking his secrets. Brian knew the remaining Gonzalez brother might have called for backup. He ushered Hector, Marisol, and Oscar through a hidden tunnel, urging them to find safety. His prediction proved correct. A new wave of attackers arrived that night, but Brian fought them off, vanishing into the night. The next day, Hector found the scene eerily peaceful, with no sign of the previous night's chaos. He assumed Brian had fled Mexico. Deeply saddened by losing his mentor, Oscar learned of Hector's capture by the same men who'd attacked Brian. Despite the threat, Hector remained loyal, refusing to betray Brian's location. The story takes a dangerous turn, leaving Brian, Hector, and the others' fates in the balance. Hector is in danger. His captors threaten him with a gun, but luckily, Brian shows up just in time. Brian unleashes a hail of bullets from his machine gun, eliminating all the thugs and saving Hector. They speed off in a fancy car. Meanwhile, Oscar and Marisol arrive at Brian's house, only to be ambushed by soldiers. Oscar fights them valiantly. One soldier named Eric approaches Oscar, assuring him they only want to help Brian. Eric reveals a shocking truth. He's Brian's former student. Oscar surprisingly trusts him. Marisol, Oscar, and Eric journey together to find Brian. Oscar grows suspicious when Eric steers them off course. He discreetly contacts Hector, revealing they're with a potentially corrupt cop named Eric. Brian, upon hearing this, warns Oscar to be cautious. Eric takes Oscar to a shocking location, a drug lord's mansion. There, Eric proposes using Oscar to lure out and eliminate Brian. On the other hand, Brian assembles an unlikely team of allies, police, criminals, and even mafia members. Hector, surprised by this motley crew, focuses on the mission. A brutal battle erupts between Brian's team and the drug lord's henchmen. The drug lord, Caesar, betrays and kills his right-hand man, Pero, and joins the fight against Brian. Brian and Hector fight into the mansion, systematically taking down enemies. Eric takes Oscar hostage to manipulate Brian. However, the tables turn when Oscar fights back and overpowers Eric. Marisol joins the fight, injuring Eric with a gunshot. Brian arrives, overjoyed to see his friends safe. As they escape, Caesar ambushes them. Thankfully, Hector eliminates Caesar with a shotgun blast. Real cops arrive and secure the scene. Hector assures them he's left his gang life behind. Brian reunites with his fiancée, and Oscar and Marisol share a loving moment. In a shocking twist, a group of soldiers detain a villainous man named Sonny Kilbane. But the real shocker? Brian is one of the soldiers, revealing himself with a menacing grin. That's all for our recap of As Good as Dead. If you enjoyed this revenge story with a surprising twist, hit that like button and subscribe for more movie recaps every week. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the film in the comments below.